Seville, Spanish, Sevilla listen, is the capital and largest city of the autonomous community of Andalusia and the province of Seville, Spain. It is situated on the plain of the river Guadalquivir. The inhabitants of the city are known as Sevillanos feminine form, Sevillanas or Hispalenses, after the Roman name of the city, Hispalis. Seville has a municipal population of about 690,000 as of 2016, and a metropolitan population of about 1.5 million, making it the fourth largest city in Spain and the 30th most populous municipality in the European Union. Its old town, with an area of 4 square kilometers (2 square miles), contains 3 UNESCO World Heritage Sites: the Alcazar Palace Complex, the Cathedral and the General Archive of the Indies. The Seville Harbour, located about 80 kilometers (50 miles) from the Atlantic Ocean, is the only river port in Spain. Seville is also the hottest major metropolitan area in the geographical southwestern Europe, with summer average high temperatures of above 35 degrees Celsius (95 degrees Fahrenheit). Seville was founded as the Roman city of Hispalis. It later became known as Ishbilia Arabic, Ashbalit after the Muslim conquest in 712. During the Muslim rule in Spain, Seville came under the jurisdiction of the Caliphate of Córdoba before becoming the independent Taifa of Seville. Later it was ruled by the Muslim Almoravids and the Almohads until finally being incorporated into the Christian Kingdom of Castile under Ferdinand III in 1248. After the discovery of the Americas, Seville became one of the economic centers of the Spanish Empire as its port monopolized the trans-oceanic trade and the Casa de Contratación House of Trade wielded its power, opening a golden age of arts and literature. In 1519, Ferdinand Magellan departed from Seville for the first circumnavigation of the earth. Coinciding with the Baroque period of European history, the 17th century in Seville represented the most brilliant flowering of the city's culture, then began a gradual economic and demographic decline as silting in the Guadalquivir forced the trade monopoly to relocate to the nearby port of Cadiz. The 20th century in Seville saw the tribulations of the Spanish Civil War, decisive cultural milestones such as the Ibero-American Exposition of 1929 and Expo 92, and the city's election as the capital of the autonomous community of Andalusia. Name. Etymology. Hisbal is the oldest name for Seville. It appears to have originated during the Phoenician colonization of the Tartessian culture in southwestern Iberia, and it refers to the god Baal. According to Manuel Pellicer Catalan, the ancient name was Spal, and it meant lowland in the Phoenician language, similar to the Hebrew shfela and cognate with Arabic asphal asphal. During Roman rule, the name was Latinized as Hispal and later as Hispalis. After the Umayyad invasion, this name was adapted into Arabic as Ishbilia Arabic, Ashbalit. Since p does not exist in Arabic, it was replaced by b. The Latin place name suffixes was replaced by its Arabic equivalent iyya, and stressed a, turned into I, due to the phonetic phenomenon called amala. Motto. No8do is the official motto of Seville, popularly believed to be a rebus signifying the Spanish no me ha dejado, meaning, she Seville has not abandoned me. The phrase, pronounced with sinalefa as no ma e zao, is spelled with an 8 in the middle representing the word madeja ma exa, skein of wool. Legend states that the title was given by King Alfonso X, who was resident in the city's Alcazar and supported by the citizens when his son, later Sancho IV of Castile, tried to usurp the throne from him. The emblem is present on Seville's municipal flag, and features on city property such as manhole covers, and Christopher Columbus's tomb in the cathedral. History. Seville is approximately 2,200 years old. The passage of the various civilizations instrumental in its growth has left the city with a distinct personality, and a large and well-preserved historical center. Early periods. The mythological founder of the city is Hercules Heracles, commonly identified with the Phoenician god Melkart, who the myth says sailed through the Strait of Gibraltar to the Atlantic, and founded trading posts at the current sites of Cadiz and of Seville. The original core of the city, in the neighborhood of the present-day street, Cuesta del Rosario, dates to the 8th century BC, when Seville was on an island in the Guadalquivir. Archaeological excavations in 1999 found anthropic remains under the north wall of the Real Alcazar dating to the 8th–7th century BC. The town was called Hisbal by the Phoenicians and by the Tartessians, the indigenous pre-Roman Iberian people of Tartessos, who controlled the Guadalquivir valley at the time. The city was known from Roman times as Hispal and later as Hispalis. Hispalis developed into one of the great market and industrial centers of Hispania, while the nearby Roman city of Italica, present-day Santiponce, birthplace of the Roman emperors Trajan and Hadrian, remained a typically Roman residential city. Large-scale Roman archaeological remains can be seen there and at the nearby town of Carmona as well. Existing Roman features in Seville itself include the remains exposed in situ in the underground antiquarium of the Metropole Parasol building, the remnants of an aqueduct, 3 pillars of a temple in Marmol Street, the columns of La Alameda de Hercules and the remains in the Patio de Banderas Square near the Seville Cathedral. The walls surrounding the city were originally built during the rule of Julius Caesar, but their current course and design were the result of Moorish reconstructions. Following Roman rule, there were successive conquests of the Roman province of Hispania Baetica by the Vandals, the Suebi, and the Visigoths during the 5th and 6th centuries. Moorish era. Seville was taken by the Moors, during the conquest of Hispalis in 712. It was the capital for the kings of the Umayyad Caliphate, the Almoravid dynasty first and after the Almohad dynasty from Arabic al-Muwahhidin, i.e., the monotheists, or the Unitarians, from the 8th to 13th centuries. The Moorish urban influences continued and are present in contemporary Seville, for instance in the custom of decorating with herbaje and small fountains the courtyards of the houses. However, most buildings of the Moorish aesthetic actually belong to the Mudéjar style of Islamic art, developed under Christian rule and inspired by the Arabic style. Original Moorish buildings are the Patio del Yeso in the Alcazar, the city walls, and the main section of the Giralda, bell tower of the Seville Cathedral. Castilian rule. In 1247, the Christian king Ferdinand III of Castile and Leon began the conquest of Andalusia. After conquering Jaén and Córdoba, he seized the villages surrounding the city, Carmona Lora del Rio and Alcalá del Rio, and kept a standing army in the vicinity, the siege lasting for 15 months. The decisive action took place in May 1248 when Ramón Boniface sailed up the Guadalquivir and severed the Triana bridge that made the provisioning of the city from the farms of the Aljaraf possible. The city surrendered on 23 November 1248. The city's development continued after the Castilian conquest in 1248. Public buildings were constructed including churches, many of which were built in the Mudéjar and Gothic styles, and the Seville Cathedral, built during the 15th century with Gothic architecture. The Moors Palace became the Castilian royal residence, and during Pedro I's rule it was replaced by the Alcazar. The upper levels are still used by the royal family as the official Seville residence. After the 1391 pogrom, believed to having been instigated by the Archdeacon Ferrant Martínez, all the synagogues in Seville were converted to churches renamed Santa Maria la Blanca, San Bartolomé, Santa Cruz, and Convento Madre de Dios. The Jewish quarters land and shops cited in modern-day Barrio Santa Cruz were appropriated by the church. Many were killed during the pogrom, although most were forced to convert. The first tribunal of the Spanish Inquisition was instituted in Seville in 1478. At first, the activity of the Inquisition was limited to the dioceses of Seville and Córdoba, where Alonso de Ojeda had detected converso activity. The first auto de fe took place in Seville on 6 February 1481, when 6 people were burned alive. Alonso de Ojeda himself gave the sermon. The Inquisition then grew rapidly. The Plaza de San Francisco was the site of the autos de fe. By 1492, tribunals existed in 8 Castilian cities, Avila, Córdoba, Jaén, Medina del Campo, Segovia, Sigüenza, Toledo and Valladolid, and by the Alhambra decree all Jews were forced to convert to Catholicism or be ejected from Spain. The Golden Age. Following the 1492 Christopher Columbus expedition to the New World from the port of Palos de la Frontera, the results from his claiming territory and trade for the Crown of Castile incipient Spain in the West Indies began to profit the city, as all goods imported from the New World had to pass through the Casa de Contratación before being distributed throughout the rest of Spain. Unlike other harbours, reaching the port of Seville required sailing about 80 kilometres up the river Guadalquivir. In addition, the river was heavily defended with fortifications since the Middle Ages. This made Seville the best defended port to bring the riches from the Americas. A «golden age of development» commenced in Seville, due to its being the only port awarded the royal monopoly for trade with the growing Spanish colonies in the Americas and the influx of riches from them. Since only sailing ships leaving from and returning to the inland port of Seville could engage in trade with the Spanish Americas, merchants from Europe and other trade centers needed to go to Seville to acquire New World trade goods. The city's population grew to more than 100,000 people. In the late 16th century the monopoly was broken, with the port of Cadiz also authorized as a port of trade. The Great Plague of Seville in 1649 reduced the population by almost half, and it would not recover until the early 19th century. By the 18th century its international importance was in decline. After the silting up of the harbour by the Guadalquivir River, upriver shipping ceased and the city went into relative economic decline. The writer Miguel de Cervantes lived primarily in Seville between 1596 and 1600. Because of financial problems, Cervantes worked as a purveyor for the Spanish Armada, and later as a tax collector. In 1597, discrepancies in his accounts of the 3 years previous landed him in the royal prison of Seville for a short time. Rinconet y Cortadillo, a popular comedy among his works, features two young vagabonds who come to Seville, attracted by the riches and disorder that the 16th-century commerce with the Americas had brought to that metropolis. 18th century. During the 18th century Charles III of Spain promoted Seville's industries. Construction of the Real Fábrica de Tabacos Royal Tobacco Factory began in 1728, with additions to it over the next 30 years. It was the second largest building in Spain, after the royal residence El Escorial. Since the 1950s it has been the seat of the rectorate of the University of Seville, together with the schools of law, philology, geography and history. In 2012, a study of experts concluded the total number of operas set in Seville is 153. Among the most popular composers who fell in love with the city are Beethoven, Fidelio; Mozart, The Marriage of Figaro and Don Giovanni; Rossini, The Barber of Seville; Donizetti, La Favorite, and Bizet, Carmen. Seville became the dean of the Spanish provincial press in 1758 with the publication of its first newspaper, the Hebdomario Útil de Seville, the first to be printed in Spain outside Madrid. 19th and 20th centuries. Between 1825 and 1833, Melchor Cano acted as chief architect in Seville. Most of the urban planning policy and architectural modifications of the city were made by him and his collaborator José Manuel Arjona y Cuba. Industrial architecture surviving today from the first half of the 19th century includes the ceramics factory installed in the Carthusian monastery at La Cartuja in 1841 by the Pickman family, and now home to the El Centro Andaluz de Arte Contemporáneo (CAAC), which manages the collections of the Museo de Arte Contemporáneo de Sevilla. It also houses the rectory of the UNIA. In the years that Queen Isabel II ruled directly, about 1843 to 1868, the civilian bourgeoisie invested in a construction boom unmatched in the city's history. The Isabel II Bridge, better known as the Triana Bridge, dates from this period. Street lighting was expanded in the municipality and most of the streets were paved during this time as well. By the second half of the 19th century, Seville began an expansion supported by railway construction and the demolition of part of its ancient walls, allowing the urban space of the city to grow eastward and southward. The Sevillana de Electricidad Company was created in 1894 to provide electric power throughout the municipality, and in 1901 the Plaza de Armas railway station was inaugurated. The Museum of Fine Arts Museo de Bellas Artes de Sevilla opened in 1904. In 1929 the city hosted the Ibero-American Exposition, which accelerated the southern expansion of the city and created new public spaces such as the Plaza de España and the María Luisa Park. Not long before the opening, the Spanish government began a modernization of the city in order to prepare for the expected crowds by erecting new hotels and widening the medieval streets to allow for the movement of automobiles. Seville fell very quickly at the beginning of the Spanish Civil War in 1936. General Queipo de Llano carried out a coup within the city, quickly capturing the city centre. Radio Seville opposed the uprising and called for the peasants to come to the city for arms, while workers' groups established barricades. Delano then moved to capture Radio Seville, which he used to broadcast propaganda on behalf of the Franquist forces. After the initial takeover of the city, resistance continued among residents of the working-class neighborhoods for some time, until a series of fierce reprisals took place. Under Francisco Franco's rule, Spain was officially neutral in World War II, although it did collaborate with the Axis powers, and like the rest of the country, Seville remained largely economically and culturally isolated from the outside world. In 1953 the shipyard of Seville was opened, eventually employing more than 2,000 workers in the 1970s. Before the existence of wetlands regulation in the Guadalquivir basin, Seville suffered regular heavy flooding. Perhaps worst of all were the floods that occurred in November 1961 when the river Tamurguillo, a tributary of the Guadalquivir, overflowed as a result of a prodigious downpour of rain, and Seville was consequently declared a disaster zone. Trade unionism in Seville began during the 1960s with the underground organizational activities of the Workers' Commissions or Comisiones Obreras (CCOO) in factories such as the Astilleros shipyards, Hispano Aviation, etc. Several of the movement's leaders were imprisoned in November 1973. On 3 April 1979 Spain held its first democratic municipal elections after the end of Franco's dictatorship. Councillors representing 4 different political parties were elected in Seville. On 5 November 1982, Pope John Paul II arrived in Seville to officiate at a Mass before more than 500,000 people at the fairgrounds. He visited the city again 13 June 1993, for the International Eucharistic Congress. In 1992, coinciding with the 5th centenary of the discovery of the Americas, the Universal Exposition was held for 6 months in Seville, on the occasion of which the local communications network infrastructure was greatly improved. The SE30 ring road around the city was completed and new highways were constructed. The new Santa Justa train station had opened in 1991, while the Spanish high-speed rail system, the Alta Velocidad Española Avenue, began to operate between Madrid-Seville. The Seville Airport, Aeropuerto de Sevilla, was expanded with a new terminal building designed by the architect Rafael Mineo, and various other improvements were made. The monumental Puente del Alamillo Bridge over the Guadalquivir, designed by the architect Santiago Calatrava, was built to allow access to the island of La Cartuja, site of the massive exposition. Some of the installations remaining at the site after the exposition were converted into the Scientific and Technological Park Cartuja 93. 21st century. In 2004 the Metropole Parasol project, commonly known as Las Setas English, the Mushrooms, due to the appearance of the structure, was launched to revitalize the Plaza de la Encarnación, for years used as a car park and seen as a dead spot between more popular tourist destinations in the city. The Metropole Parasol was completed in March 2011, costing just over €102 million in total, more than twice as much as originally planned. Constructed from crossed wooden beams, Las Setas is said to be the largest timber-framed structure in the world. Geography. Seville has an area of 141 square kilometers, 54 square miles, according to the National Topographic Map, Mapa Topográfico Nacional, series from the Instituto Geográfico Nacional, Centro Nacional de Información Geográfica, the country's civilian survey organization, pages 984, 985 and 1002. The city is situated in the fertile valley of the Guadalquivir River. The average height above sea level is 7 meters (23 feet). Most of the city is on the east side of the river, while Triana, La Cartuja and Los Remedios are on the west side. The Algarraf region lies further west, and is considered part of the metropolitan area. The city has boundaries on the north with La Rinconada, La Algaba and Santiponce, on the east with Alcalá de Guadera, on the south with Dos Hermanas and Guells, and on the west with San Juan de Aznalfarache, Tamares and Camas. Position. Seville is on the same parallel as United States West Coast city San Jose in central California. São Miguel, the main island of the Azores archipelago, lies on the same latitude. Further east from Seville in the Mediterranean basin, it is on the same latitude as Catania in Sicily, Italy, and just south of Athens, the capital of Greece. Beyond that, it is located on the same parallel as South Korean capital, Seoul. Seville is located inland, not far from the Andalusian coast, but still sees a much more continental climate than the nearest port cities, Cadiz and Huelva. For example, it is much too mild in winter to be described as a proper continental area. It is at a relative distance from the three larger cities in Spain, making it by far the largest city in the south of the Iberian Peninsula. Climate. Seville has a Mediterranean climate, Köppen climate classification CSA, featuring very hot, dry summers and mild, wet winters. Like most Mediterranean climates, Seville has a drier summer and wet winter. The annual average temperature is 25.4 degrees Celsius (78 degrees Fahrenheit) during the day and 13 degrees Celsius (55 degrees Fahrenheit) at night. Summer is the dominant season and lasts from May to October, the latter in spite of the dwindling daylight and inland position. With an annual average of 19.2 degrees Celsius (67 degrees Fahrenheit), Seville is the warmest city in Europe. After the city of Córdoba, also in Andalusia, Seville has the hottest summer in continental Europe among all cities with a population over 100,000 people, with average daily highs in July of 36.0 degrees Celsius (97 degrees Fahrenheit). Average daily lows in July are 20.3 degrees Celsius (69 degrees Fahrenheit), and every year the temperature exceeds 40 degrees Celsius (104 degrees Fahrenheit) on several occasions. The coldest temperature extreme of -5.5 degrees Celsius (22 degrees Fahrenheit) was registered by the weather station at Seville Airport on 12 February 1956. A historical record high disputed of 50.0 degrees Celsius (122 degrees Fahrenheit) was recorded on 4 August 1881, according to the NOAA Satellite and Information Service. There is an unaccredited record by the National Institute of Meteorology of 47.2 degrees Celsius (117 degrees Fahrenheit) on 1 August during the 2003 heat wave, according to a weather station 83,910 LEZL located in the southern part of Seville Airport, near the abandoned military zone. This temperature would be one of the highest ever recorded in Spain. The average sunshine hours in Seville are approximately 3,000 per year. Snowfall is virtually unknown, and the last important snowfall occurred in 1954. Seville had to wait until 10 January 2010 to see snowflakes again falling on the city, the only snowfall during the 21st century to date, though it was quite significant in the immediate surrounding villages and suburbs. Since the year 1500, only 10 snowfalls have been reported in Seville. During the 20th century, Seville registered just 2 snowfalls, being the last one in February 2, 1954. Winters are mild. January is the coolest month, with average maximum temperatures of 16.0 degrees Celsius (61 degrees Fahrenheit) and minimum of 5.7 degrees Celsius (42 degrees Fahrenheit). Precipitation varies from 400 to 650 mm (15.7 to 25.6 in) per year, with frequent torrential rain. December is the wettest month, with an average rainfall of 99 mm (3.9 in). On average there are 50.5 days of rain. Government. Seville is the capital of the autonomous community of Andalusia. The historical edifice of the Palace of San Telmo is now the seat of the presidency of the Andalusian Autonomous Government. The administrative headquarters are in Torre Triana, in La Cartuja. The Hospital de los Cinco Llagas, literally, Hospital of the Five Holy Wounds, is the current seat of the Parliament of Andalusia. Since 2015, the government of the autonomous community is a coalition between the center-left Spanish Socialist Workers' Party or Partido Socialista Obrero Español (PSOE) and the centrist Ciudadanos. Its president is Susana Díaz. Elections to the autonomous community are held every 4 years. Topic: Status. Seville is the capital of the Autonomous Community of Andalusia, according to Article 4 of the Statute of Autonomy of Andalusia of 2007, and is the capital of the province of Seville as well. The Common Council of Seville has 33 councillors and a mayor, with elections every 4 years. Since 2011, the government of the city has been by the Conservative People's Party or Partido Popular (PP), and Juan Ignacio Zoido Alvarez has been mayor. The city hall is on the Plaza Nueva, in the El Arenal neighborhood. The administration of the city is decentralized into 11 districts. Districts and neighborhoods. Seville has 11 districts, further divided into 108 neighborhoods. Main sites. The Alcazar, the Cathedral, and the Archivo General de Indias, General Archive of the Indies, are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Topic: Landmarks. The St. Mary of the Sea Cathedral was built from 1401 to 1519 after the Reconquista on the former site of the city's mosque. It is among the largest of all medieval and Gothic cathedrals, in terms of both area and volume. The interior is the longest nave in Spain, and is lavishly decorated, with a large quantity of gold evident. La Giralda is a tower attached to the cathedral that dates back to the 12th century. It was originally built as part of a mosque when the Moors ruled in Spain and was later added onto by the Christians. Tourists today can climb the tower by walking up a series of ramps that were previously used by officials who rode their horses to the top of the tower. The overall tower construction is consistent with Roman lighthouse construction methods such as with the Tower of Hercules circa 2nd century CE, built on the northwest coast of Spain. La Giralda gets its name from the weather vane attached to the very top of it, as gira means turning one in the Spanish language. The Alcazar facing the cathedral was developed from a previous Moorish palace which was developed from a Visigoth establishment which was itself developed from an existing Roman construction. Redevelopment was started in 1181 and continued for over 500 years, mainly in the Mudéjar style, but also in the Renaissance style. The popular TV show Game of Thrones has shot many scenes at this location. The Torre del Oro was built as a watchtower and defensive barrier on the river. A chain was strung through the water from the base of the tower to prevent boats from traveling into the river port. The city hall was built in the 16th century in high plateresque style by master architect Diego de Riaño. The façade to Plaza Nueva was built in the 19th century in neoclassical style. The Palacio de San Telmo, formerly the University of Sailors, and later the seminary, is now the seat for the Andalusian autonomous government. It is one of the most emblematic buildings of Baroque architecture, mainly to its world-renowned Churrigueresque principal façade and the impressive chapel. The Royal Tobacco Factory is housed on the original site of the first tobacco factory in Europe, a vast 18th-century building in Baroque style and the purported inspiration for the opera Carmen. The Metropole Parasol, in La Encarnación Square, is the world's largest wooden structure. A monumental umbrella-like building designed by the German architect Jürgen Mayer, finished in 2011. This modern architecture structure houses the central market and an underground archaeological complex. The terrace roof is a city viewpoint. The General Archive of the Indies is the repository of extremely valuable archival documents illustrating the history of the Spanish Empire in the Americas and the Philippines. The building itself, an unusually serene and Italianate example of Spanish Renaissance architecture, was designed by Juan de Herrera. The Plaza de España, in María Luisa Park, Parque de María Luisa, was built by the architect Aníbal González for the 1929 Exposición Ibero-Americana. It is an outstanding example of regionalist revival architecture, a bizarre and loftily conceived mixture of diverse historic styles, such as Art Deco and lavishly ornamented with typical glazed tiles. There are several Moorish elements, some are very beautiful remains of former important Sevillan mosques currently being part of churches in the city, also in museums. The neighborhood of Triana, situated on the west bank of the Guadalquivir River, played an important role in the history of the city and constitutes by itself a folk, monumental and cultural center. On the other hand, La Macarena neighborhood is located on the northern side of the city center. It contains some important monuments and religious buildings, such as the Museum and Catholic Church of La Macarena or the Hospital de los Cinco Llagas. Museums. The most important art collection of Seville is the Museum of Fine Arts of Seville. It was established in 1835 in the former convent of La Merced. It holds many masterworks by Murillo, Pacheco, Zurbarán, Valdés Leal, and others masters of the Baroque Sevillian school, containing also Flemish paintings of the 15th and 16th centuries. Other museums in Seville are the Archaeological Museum, which contains collections from the Tartessian, Roman and some of Almohad and Christian periods, located in America Square at the Maria Luisa Park. The Museum of Arts and Traditions, also in America Square, in front of the Archaeological Museum. The Andalusian Contemporary Art Center, situated in the neighborhood of La Cartuja. The Naval Museum, housed in the Golden Torre del Oro, next to the river Guadalquivir. The Carriages Museum, in the Los Remedios neighborhood. The Flamenco Art Museum. The Bullfighting Museum, in the La Maestranza Bullring. The Palace of the Countess of Labrija, a private collection which contains many of the mosaic floors discovered in the nearby Roman town of Italica. The Centro Velázquez Center, located at the Old Priests Hospital in the touristic Santa Cruz neighborhood. The Antiquarium in Metropole Parasol, an underground museum which is composed of the most important archaeological site of the ancient Roman stage of Seville and remains preserved. The Castillo de San Jorge Castle of St. George is situated near the Triana Market, next to the Isabel II Bridge. It was the last seat for the Spanish Inquisition. The Museum and Treasure of La Macarena, where the collection of the Macarena Brotherhood is exhibited. This exhibition gives visitors an accurate impression of Seville Holy Week. La Casa de la Ciencia de Sevilla – Science Museum, opposite the Maria Luisa Park. Museum of Pottery in Triana. Pabellón de la Navegación, Pavilion of Navigation. Parks and gardens. The Parc de Maria Luisa Park, is a monumental park built for the 1929 World's Fair held in Seville, the Exposición Ibero-Americana. The so-called Jardins de las Delicias, literally, delighting gardens, closer to the river, are part of the Parc de Maria Luisa. The Alcazar Gardens, within the grounds of the Alcazar Palace, consist of several sectors developed in different historical styles. The Gardens of Murillo and the Gardens of Catalina de Ribera, both along and outside the south wall of the Alcazar, lie next to the Santa Cruz quarter. The Parque del Alamillo y San Jerónimo, the largest park in Andalusia, was originally built for Seville Expo '92 to reproduce the Andalusian native flora. It lines both Guadalquivir shores around the San Jerónimo meander, the impressive 32 meters high bronze sculpture, The Birth of a New Man, popularly known as Columbus's Egg, El Huevo de Colón, by the Georgian sculptor Zurab Tsereteli, is located in its northwestern sector. The American Garden, also completed for Expo '92, is in La Cartuja. It is a public botanical garden, with a representative collection of American plants donated by different countries on the occasion of the World Exposition. Despite its extraordinary botanical value, it remains a mostly abandoned place. Culture. Theaters. The Teatro Lope de Vega is located on Avenida de Maria Luisa Avenue next to Parque Maria Luisa. It was built in 1929, being its architect Vicente Traver y Tomás. It was the auditorium of the Pavilion of the City in the Ibero-American exhibition. This pavilion had a large room that became the casino of the exhibition. The theater occupied an area of 4,600 square meters and could accommodate 1,100 viewers. Its architecture is Spanish Baroque Revival, being the building faithful to this style both in the set and in its ornamentation. Scenic box, seats, stalls, boxes, amphitheater and paradise, give a spectacular beauty to the theater. It has served as a place to represent all kinds of shows, theater, dance, opera, jazz, flamenco, and nowadays the most outstanding of the panorama is its programming national and international, becoming one of the most important theaters in Spain. Others important theaters are Teatro de la Maestranza, Auditorio Rocío Jurado and Teatro Central. Seville also has a Corral de Comedias theater, is the Corral del Coliseo, now used as a residential building. Festivals. Bienal de Flamenco. Seville is home to the bi-annual flamenco festival La Bienal, which claims to be the biggest flamenco event worldwide and lasts for nearly a month. Vila de Santiago y Santa Ana. In the district of Triana, the Vila de Santiago y Santa Ana is held every July and includes sporting events, performances and cultural activities as the city honors St. James and St. Anna. Holy Week in Seville. Semana Santa is celebrated all over Spain and Latin America, but the celebration in Seville is large and well known as a fiesta of international tourist interest. Local brotherhoods, or costaleros, organize floats and processions throughout the week, reenacting the story of the Passion of Christ. There is traditional music and art incorporated into the processions, making Semana Santa an important source of both material and immaterial Sevillian cultural identity. The Seville Fair. Seville is internationally renowned for the solemn but decorative processions during Holy Week and the colorful and lively fair held 2 weeks after. During the feria, families, businesses and organizations set up casitas marquees in which they spend the week dancing, drinking, and socializing. Traditionally, women wear elaborate flamenco dresses and men dress in their best suits. The marquees are set up on a permanent fairground in the district of Los Remedios, in which each street is named after a famous bullfighter. Music. Seville had a vibrant rock music scene in the 1970s and 1980s with bands like Triana, Alameda and Smash, who fused Andalusia's traditional flamenco music with British-style progressive rock. The punk rock group Reincidentes and indie band Señor Chinero, as well as singer Kiko Veneno, rose to prominence in the early 1990s. The city's music scene now features rap acts such as SFDK, Mala Rodriguez, Daresteel, Tote King, Dogma Crew, Bisley Demera, Hayes and Jesuli. Seville's diverse music scene is reflected in the variety of its club-centered nightlife. The city is also home to many theaters and performance spaces where classical music is performed, including Teatro Lope de Vega, Teatro La Maestranza, Teatro Central, the Real Alcazar Gardens and the Sala Joaquin Turina. Despite its name, the Sevillana dance, commonly presented as flamenco, is not thought to be of Sevillan origin. However, the folk songs called Sevillanas are authentically Sevillan, as is the four-part dance performed with them. Flamenco. The Triana district in Seville is considered a birthplace of flamenco, where it found its beginning as an expression of the poor and marginalized. Seville's gypsy population, known as flamencos, were instrumental in the development of the art form. While it began as and remains a representation of Andalusian culture, it has also become a national heritage symbol of Spain. There are more flamenco artists in Seville than anywhere else in the country, supporting an entire industry surrounding it and drawing in a significant amount of tourism for the city. Gastronomy. The tapas scene is one of the main cultural attractions of the city. People go from one bar to another, enjoying small dishes called tapas, literally lids or covers in Spanish, referring to their probable origin as snacks served on small plates used to cover drinks. Local specialities include fried and grilled seafood including squid, choco, cuttlefish, swordfish, marinated dogfish, and ortiguillas, grilled and stewed meat, spinach with chickpeas, jamon iberico, lamb kidneys in sherry sauce, snails, caldo de puchero, and gazpacho. A sandwich known as a serenito is the typical and popular version of fast food. Typical desserts from Seville include pestiños, a honey-coated sweet fritter, torrillas, fried slices of bread with honey, roscos fritos, deep-fried sugar-coated ring donuts, magdalenas or fairy cakes, yemas de San Leandro, which provide the city's convents with a source of revenue, and tortas de aceite, a thin sugar-coated cake made with olive oil. Polvorones and mantecados are traditional Christmas products, whereas pestiños and torrillas are typically consumed during the Holy Week. Bitter Seville oranges grow on trees lining the city streets. Formerly, large quantities were collected and exported to Britain to be used in marmalade. Today the fruit is used predominantly as compost locally, rather than as a foodstuff. According to legend, the Arabs brought the bitter orange to Seville from East Asia via Iraq around the 10th century to beautify and perfume their patios and gardens, as well as to provide shade. The flowers of the tree are a source of neroli oil, commonly used in perfumery and in skin lotions for massage. Economy. Seville is the most populated city in southern Spain, and has the largest GDP gross domestic product of any in Andalusia, accounting for 1/4 of its total GDP. All municipalities in the metropolitan area depend directly or indirectly on Seville's economy, while agriculture dominates the economy of the smaller villages, with some industrial activity localized in industrial parks. The Diputación de Sevilla, Deputation of Seville, with provincial headquarters in the Antiguo Cuartel de Caballería, Old Cavalry Barracks on Avenida Menéndez Pelayo, provides public services to distant villages that they cannot provide themselves. The University of Seville and the University Pablo de Olavide are important centers of learning in western Andalusia as they offer a wide range of academic courses, consequently the city has a large number of students from Huelva and Cadiz. The economic activity of Seville cannot be detached from the geographical and urban context of the city. The capital of Andalusia is the center of a growing metropolitan area. Aside from traditional neighborhoods such as Santa Cruz, Triana and others, those further away from the center, such as Nervión, Sevilla Este, and El Porvenir have seen recent economic growth. Until the economic crisis of 2007, this urban area saw significant population growth and the development of new industrial and commercial parks. During this period, availability of infrastructure in the city contributed to the growth of an economy dominated by the service sector, but in which industry still holds a considerable place. Infrastructure. The 1990s saw massive growth in investment in infrastructure in Seville, largely due to its hosting of the Universal Exposition of Seville in 1992. This economic development of the city and its urban area is supported by good transportation links to other Spanish cities, including a high-speed avenue railway connection to Madrid, and a new international airport. Seville has the only inland port in Spain, located 80 kilometers (50 miles) from the mouth of the Guadalquivir River. This harbor complex offers access to the Atlantic and the Mediterranean, and allows trade in goods between the south of Spain, Andalusia, Extremadura, and Europe, the Middle East and North Africa. The port has undergone reorganization. Annual tonnage rose to 5.3 million tons of goods in 2006. Cartuja 93 is a research and development park, employing 15,000 persons. The Cajasol Tower skyscraper is under construction in the park for the Spanish bank Cajasol's headquarters and offices. The tower was started in March 2008 with construction concluding in 2015. With a height of 180.5 meters (592 feet) and 40 floors, it will be the tallest building in Andalusia. Seville has conference facilities, including the Congress Palace. Its Parque Tecnológico y Aeronáutico Aerópolis Technological and Aeronautical Park is focused on the aircraft industry. Outside of Seville are 9 PS-20 solar power towers which use the city's sunny weather to provide most of it with clean and renewable energy. Research and development. The Consejo Superior de Investigaciones Científicas en Sevilla (CSIC) is based in the former Pavilion of Peru in the Maria Luisa Park. In April 2008 the City Council of Seville provided a grant to renovate the building to create the Casa de la Ciencia Science Center to encourage popular interest in science. The internationally recognized company Neocodex has its headquarters in Seville. It maintains the first and largest DNA bank in Spain and has made significant contributions to scientific research in genetics. Seville is also considered an important technological and research center for renewable energy and the aeronautics industry. The output of the research centers in Sevillian universities working in tandem with city government, and the numerous local technology companies, have made Seville a leader among Spanish cities in technological research and development. The Parque Científico-Tecnológico Cartuja 93 is a nexus of private and public investment in various fields of research. Principal fields of innovation and research are telecommunications, new technologies, biotechnology with applications in local agricultural practices, environment and renewable energy. Topic: Transport. Topic: Bus. Seville is served by the TUSSAM, Transportes Urbanos de Sevilla bus network which runs buses throughout the city. The Consorcio de Transportes de Sevilla communicates by bus with all the satellite towns of Seville. 2 bus stations serve transportation between surrounding areas and other cities, Plaza de Armas Station, with destinations north and west, and Prado de San Sebastián Station, covering routes to the south and east. Plaza de Armas Station has direct bus lines to many Spanish cities and with Lisbon, in Portugal. The city has a lot of long-distance buses that can be hired through the company Sobus. Metro. The Seville Metro, Metro de Sevilla, in Spanish, is a light metro network serving the city of Seville and its metropolitan area. The system is totally independent of any other rail or street traffic. All stations were built with platform screen doors. It was the 6th metro system to be built in Spain, after those in Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, Bilbao and Palma de Mallorca. Currently, it is the 5th biggest metro company in Spain by number of passengers carried, more than 12 million in 2009. The Metro of Sevilla has 1 line with 22 stations and is currently expanding, with 3 more different lines projected. Tram. Metro Centro is a surface tramway serving the center of the city. It began operating in October 2007. The service has just 5 stops: Plaza Nueva, Archivo de Indias, Puerta de Jerez, Prado de San Sebastián and San Bernardo, all as part of Phase 1 of the project. It is expected to be extended to Santa Justa Avenue Station, including 4 new stops: San Francisco Javier, Eduardo Dato, Luis de Morales and Santa Justa. This extension was postponed although the City Council had made expanding the metro lines a priority. Train. The Santa Justa train station is served by the Avenue high-speed rail system, operated by the Spanish state-owned rail company Renfe. A 5-line commuter rail service joins the city with the metropolitan area. Seville is on the Red Ciudades Avenue, a net created with Seville next to 17 major cities of Spain with high-speed rail. Although Seville is close to the Portuguese city of Faro, it is not possible to cross the border by train. Bicycle. The Ceviche Community Bicycle Program has integrated bicycles into the public transport network. Bicycles are available for hire around the city at low cost, and green bicycle lanes can be seen on most major streets. The number of people using bicycles as a means of transport in Seville has increased substantially in recent years, multiplying tenfold from 2006 to 2011. As of 2015, an estimated 9% of all mechanized trips in the city and 5.6% of all trips including those on foot are made by bicycle. The City Council signed a contract with the multinational corporation J-Cedico, an outdoor advertising company. The public bicycle rental system is financed by a local advertising operator in return for the city signing over a 10-year license to exploit citywide billboards. The overall scheme is called Cyclocity by J-Cedico, but each city's system is branded under an individual name. Airport. San Pablo Airport is the main airport for Seville and is Andalusia's second busiest airport. After Malaga, the airport handled 4,051,392 passengers and just under 5,000 tons of cargo in 2009. It has one terminal and one runway. It is one of many bases for the Spanish low-cost carrier Vueling, and from November 2010 Ryanair will base 2 aircraft at the airport. Port. Seville is the only commercial river port in Spain, and the only inland city in the country where cruise ships can arrive in the historical centre. On 21 August 2012, the Mule de las Delicias, controlled by the Port Authority of Seville, hosted the cruise ship Azamara Journey for 2 days, the largest ship ever to visit the town. This vessel belongs to the shipping company Royal Caribbean and can accommodate up to 700 passengers. Roads. Seville has one ring road, the SE30, which connects with the dual carriageway of the south, the A4, that directly communicates the city with Cadiz, Córdoba and Madrid. Also there is another dual carriageway, the A92, linking the city with Estepa, Antequera, Granada, Guadix and Almería. The A49 links Seville with Huelva and the Algarve in the south of Portugal. Public transportation statistics. The average amount of time people spend commuting with public transit in Sevilla, for example to and from work, on a weekday is 34 minutes. 7% of public transit riders ride for more than 2 hours every day. The average amount of time people wait at a stop or station for public transit is 8 minutes, while 15% of riders wait for over 20 minutes on average every day. The average distance people usually ride in a single trip with public transit is 5.6 kilometers, 3.5 miles, while 7% travel for over 12 kilometers, 7.5 miles in a single direction. Topic: Education. Seville is home to 3 public universities, the University of Seville, founded in 1505, the Pablo de Olavide University, founded in 1997, and the International University of Andalusia, founded in 1994. Additionally, there is the School of Hispanic American Studies, founded in 1942, the Menéndez Pelayo International University, based in Santander, which operates branch campuses in Seville, and Loyola University Andalusia. International primary and secondary schools: Lycée Français de Seville, French school; Deutsche Schule Sevilla, German school. St George's British School of Sevillesville is also home to many international schools and colleges that cater to American students who come to study abroad. Topic: Sport. Seville is the hometown of 2 rival association football teams, Real Betis Balompié and Sevilla Football Club. Both teams are playing in the La Liga. Both teams have only won the league once each, Betis in 1935 and Sevilla in 1946. Only Sevilla has won European competitions, winning consecutive UEFA Cup finals in 2006 and 2007 and the UEFA Europa League in 2014, 2015 and 2016. Sevilla's stadium, the Ramón Sánchez Pizjuán, was a venue during the 1982 FIFA World Cup and 4 years later hosted the 1986 European Cup final. Seville's Olympic Stadium on the Isla de la Cartuja was the venue for the 2003 UEFA Cup final. Seville housed the Tennis Davis Cup final in 2004 and 2011, and the 7th Athletics World Championships. The city unsuccessfully bid for the 2004 and 2008 Summer Olympics, for which the 60,000-seat Estadio de la Cartuja was designed to stage. Seville has one important basketball club, the CB Sevilla, that plays in a CB league. Seville's Guadalquivir River is one of only 3 FISA-approved international training centers for rowing and the only one in Spain. The 2002 World Rowing Championships and the 2013 European Rowing Championships were held there. Other sites. In fiction. The picaresque novel Rinconet y Cortadillo by Miguel de Cervantes takes place in the city of Seville. The novel La Femme et le Pantin, The Woman and the Puppet (1898) by Pierre Louys, adapted for film several times, is set mainly in Seville. Seville is the setting for the legend of Don Juan, inspired by the real aristocrat Don Miguel de Miñara, on the Paseo Alcalde Marqués de Contadero. Seville is the primary setting of many operas, the best known of which are Bizet's Carmen, based on Mérimée novella, Rossini's The Barber of Seville, Verdi's La Forza del Destino, Beethoven's Fidelio, Mozart's Don Giovanni and the Marriage of Figaro, and Prokofiev's Betrothal in a Monastery. Seville is the setting of the novel The Seville Communion by Arturo Pérez Reverte. Seville is both the location and setting for much of the 1985 Doctor Who television serial, The Two Doctors. Seville is also used as one of the locations in Dan Brown's Digital Fortress. Seville is one of the settings in Justine Garder's book The Orange Girl. Seville is the hometown of the two main characters in the 2000 film The Road to El Dorado by DreamWorks. Miguel and Tulio are con artists that stow away on a ship bound for the New World and win a map for the fabled lost city of gold, El Dorado, and are invariably seen as gods by the locals. Arthur Koestler's book Spanish Testament is based on the writer's experiences while held in the Seville prison, under a sentence of death, during the Spanish Civil War. Robert Wilson's police novel The Hidden Assassins 2006 concerns a terrorist incident in Seville and the political context thereof, with much local color. The Plaza de España in the Parque de Maria Luisa appears in George Lucas's Star Wars, Episode II, Attack of the Clones, as well as in Lawrence of Arabia as the British Army headquarters in Cairo, while the courtyard was the King Alfonso XIII Hotel. The Plaza of the Americas also appeared in Lawrence, substituting for Jerusalem, and in Anthony Mann's El Cid. It also appears as the Palace of Vladek Shables Bashaw in The Wind and the Lion 1975. The Plaza de España in the Parque de Maria Luisa appears in the movie The Dictator, starring Sacha Baron Cohen, as the palace of the dictator Aladdin. The Alcazar and other sites appear in the television series Game of Thrones, in the cities of Dornay. In the 2016 film Assassin's Creed, master assassins Aguilar de Nerja and Maria escape execution and are pursued by Templars through the city, eventually performing leaps of faith off of an unfinished Seville cathedral to escape. In travel writing. The Tomb in Seville by Norman Lewis. Twin towns and sister cities. Seville is twinned with the following cities. The relationship between Seville and Kansas City is due to a small replica of the Giralda Tower, Seville's cathedral bell tower, that exists in Kansas City. Partnerships. Krakow, Poland 2002. Titles. Seville has been given titles by Spanish monarchs and heads of state throughout its history. Very Noble, by King Ferdinand III of Castile after his reconquest of the city. Very Loyal, by King Alfonso X of Castile for supporting him against a rebellion. See also the motto, No8do. Very Heroic, by King Ferdinand VII of Spain by royal document on 13 October 1817 for support against the French invasion. Invictus, Invincible in Latin, by Queen Isabella II of Spain for the city's resistance against General Van Halen's ascetium and bombing in 1843. Mariana, by General Francisco Franco in 1946 for the city's devotion to the Virgin Mary. Famous natives. Maria Antonietta of Spain, Queen Consort of Sardinia 1729–1785. Physician Avenzoar. The family of the Arabic historian and sociologist Ibn Khaldun. 13th-century poet Ibn Sahl of Seville. Renaissance composer Cristobal de Morales, Francisco Guerrero. 16th-century novelist Mateo Alemán. Playwrights Lope de Rueda and Hermanos Álvarez Quintero. Historian of New Spain Bartolomé de las Casas. Baroque painters Diego Velázquez, Valdés Leal and Bartolomé Esteban Murillo. explorer and astronomer Antonio de Ulloa. Renaissance poets Fernando de Herrera and Gutiérrez de Cetina. Notable costumbrista painter liked to depict the 19th-century society of Seville and its buildings José Jiménez Aranda. Romantic poet Gustavo Adolfo Bécquer. Bullfighters Juan Belmonte, Curro Romero, Ignacio Sánchez Mejías and Joselito El Gallo. Second Spanish Republic Prime Minister Diego Martínez, Communist politician José Díaz and Carlist politician Manuel Fall. 20th-century poets Vicente Aleixandre, Nobel laureate. Antonio and Manuel Machado. Luis Cernuda. José Julio Cabanillas Serrano continuing in the 21st century. Composer Joaquín Turina. Cartoonist William Hasilden. Actors Juan Diego, Paco Leon. Architect Santiago Cirujeda, RIBA's 2015 International Fellowships, 1. Actresses Soledad Miranda, Veronica Sanchez, Carmen Sevilla, Paz Vega, Azucena Hernández. Models Teresa Sánchez López, who won the title of Miss National in the Miss Spain contest 1984 and, representing Spain, was close to the crown of Miss Universe in 1985, first runner-up. Eva Maria González, beauty queen and model who was Miss España 2003 representing Andalusia. Singers Isabel Pantoja, Juanita Reina, Lole y Manuel, Paquita Rico, El Caracol, Falit, Pastora Soler, and Mala Rodriguez. Comedian Manuel Summers. Navy officer Miguel Buiza Fernández Palacios, who became Captain General of the Spanish Republican Navy. Association footballers José Antonio Reyes, Fernando Nando Muñoz, Ricardo Serna, Sergio Ramos, Jesus Navas, Antonio Puerta, Carlos Marchina, Jesus Capitán CAPI. Olympic swimmer Fatima Madrid. Politicians Felipe González, President of the Government of Spain from 1982 to 1996, and Alfonso Guerra, Vice President from 1982 to 1991. Dancer Maria Pages. El Recetas, humorist. See also Cadillac Seville, a car that was named after the city. Azulejo. Isla Magica. Seville Public Library. Seville Statement on Violence. References. This article incorporates text from a publication now in the public domain, Smith, William, ed., 1854–1857. Seville. Dictionary of Greek and Roman Geography. London, John Murray. External links. Seville in the official website of Tourism in Spain. Official website of the City Council. In Spanish.